Hey, this is Paul. This is the first video of the style I've done in a long time, so it's going to be a bit rough, and I really wasn't that good at it in the first place. But anyway, I'm going to be installing Red Hat 7.2, which is the first Linux distribution I had ever used, and to get this similar sort of feel for it that I had back then, I'm going to be using a PC emulator called PCem, which should make it about as slow as it was when I was using it. Um, The hardware configuration details will be in the video description along with the instructions to recreate this install the way I'm doing it. So let's put the disk in like I just did and restart. You won't be able to see any of the dialogues from the emulator because of just how OBS captures the window. So it was just me selecting the disk 1 image. So there are a few things that'll have to be done in the process of doing this because of the emulated hardware not being plug and play. So first you have to choose text install because the X server will not start without a few changes to the configuration that it doesn't let you do easily through the configuration through the install media. So once this loads, I'll probably edit this out or speed this up. Okay, for the install, most of the defaults will be fine, but there are a handful of things that will need to be changed. Like in this case, I am using a 2-button mouse emulation. Doesn't really matter, but I just wanted to have the ability to use the middle mouse button to unselect the PC emulator window. So we're just gonna wipe out the all the partitions on the hard drive, not HDC. That's a other drive I have with a few music files and stuff to test. That does work. Yes, I do want to do this. And then it detects the drive there, but we have to add a mount point. Alright. Then hit OK. Grub is fine. Install the master boot record. I don't need any other options. That's fine. Don't need a grub password. Not going to bother with a firewall because there's no way to get this online, unfortunately, at the moment. I live in the New York area. Just put in any password. Create user. Don't need to put a full name in. That's fine. Don't need to enable any of these servers. Shadow and MD5 passwords are, well, fine for 2001. So for this, I'm just going to enable a bunch of extra things. I don't need any servers because, again, there's no support for anything really network related. And then from here, here, there's more stuff to do at this point. To get it to work okay with the graphics, at least to get the configuration at least halfway there, you have to choose Generic SVGA with 1 megabyte of video memory, and hit OK, and OK. And then from here it'll just do the install, so it'll probably be sped up until that's done. Okay, so the installation is done. There's a few more things that need to be answered until, it reboots. So you don't need to create a boot disk because it's just an emulated system. Now here, there's a few things that need to be done. We need to choose generic laptop display panel 1024 by 768. I don't know if it really matters that much, but choosing laptop display seems to make it so you don't have to deal with a lot of the annoying timing things. I mean, it doesn't, but it just seems to work fine. Here we don't need to change anything. Those are wrong. They'll need to be changed in Xconfiguration later, but I haven't really messed with that and I couldn't really get it to work, so there's that. But we do have to change the default login to text because the X server will still fail to start. So go to the next screen and it should reboot. It will fail to eject the disk, so we'll have to do that manually. Just choose empty from CD-ROM under the settings menu. And then it might restart or it'll fail to restart. It sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. It looks like it didn't work this time though. So just hard reset. And then wait for that to happen. Unless it, oh no, there it goes. This is where it crashed. then hopefully if everything went fine, it should boot into grub. And here we go, and then it'll eventually boot into Linux. Alright, so we're at the text login. You have to log in as root because we do have to make some changes to things. So the first thing I'm going to do is fix some of the stuff in the xf86 config, which in a newer distro would be xorg.conf, but this is from 2001, so yeah. Anyway, to fix it, you have to find the section screen where the driver is SVGA. Right, like right here. So the first thing that has to be done is the default color depth has to be changed to 8. And then this subsection display should be changed to depth 8, and the mode should be changed to 1024 by 768. You can probably add it and keep the 800 by 600 one, but it doesn't really matter in this case. So save and quit. And then to get audio working, you have to you have to add a couple lines to modules.conf to tell it the the location of the virtual Sound Blaster 16. So options SB IO equals 0x220 is the port. Error Q equals 7. DMA equals 1. DMA 16, which is the high DMA in many DOS games, is 5, and the MPU address is 0x330, though I don't think that matters because I haven't gotten it to work on this, so though I haven't really tried. Then for the FM synth, you add options OPL3 IO equals 0x388 as recommended by the kernel documentation, and it works, so do that. Now you have to add another file which is executed while modules are loading. It's a shell script, so shell script, so start with that /bin/bash modprobe sb modprobe opl3, and then save and quit. Make sure it's executable. And then we should be able to reboot, and it should have sound. And hopefully it won't fail to reboot. Alright, so now we're started up. So now we can just log in as the regular user, and hopefully StartX will work. It does take a while to start, so this part will probably be sped up. Okay, so the desktop is fully started up. So let's try some things. First, the volume has to be turned up because the default is very low, which is under multimedia and is the audio mixer. So let's turn up volume, synth, and PCM. Those are the ones that we're going to be making use of. So let's open a terminal and try playing some audio. I should have grabbed some kind of free, royalty-free audio or something like that, but I haven't really bothered. I have the VVV soundtrack on here. I can probably get away with playing, oh, I don't know, a few seconds of something. So this will show that audio does work. It sounds kind of bad sometimes. Like sometimes it sounds okay, but sometimes it's, I don't know. It's probably something about the emulator. And there is also FM synth MIDI working too. So let's try, the old passport.mid. See what that sounds like under this. Which, wow, that actually sounds pretty terrible. But, it works. There it goes. And then, that's about it for audio. I've tried getting video to work. I couldn't get anything to work. It would try to play, I'd get audio. I've tried encoding it to MPEG-1, but nothing would play. It's probably just something about, the lacking any kind of video acceleration of any sort. So let's try some simple games like, Solitaire. I would try Minesweeper, but I haven't found it on here. So this works, just fine. It actually started up fairly quickly. But, there's some issues with like double clicking, and so it doesn't really work that well. And then, some even more involved games, like, oh, where was it? I think it was under KDE stuff. Arcade. Asteroids. This works okay. It doesn't control very well. It does take a little bit to start because it has to start all the start all the KDE services and stuff. That actually didn't happen too poorly. So let's start a new game and press L to launch. And, it's asteroids. Well, yeah. Okay. Not sure what happened there, but it just seems to have crashed. Oh well. It's an emulator. Stuff happens. It worked before. Probably something to do with the audio. Let's try another simpler game. Like Gnome Stones. This one takes a little bit to load. It's a kinda slow too. But actually it's working okay now. Yeah, it's actually not too bad. This is just kind of a Boulder Dash sort of game. Get to the end with collecting the right amount of gems, sort of thing. There is a web browser, but this doesn't have internet, and it takes a long time to start. It's just, Mozilla. It's pre-Firefox, basically Netscape Navigator. There's also Conqueror, but I could not get that to start. It complains about like render extension missing, and then it just sits there and doesn't do anything. So it's probably just something along those lines. There are some text editors on, well, like a word processor, Abbey Word, which you can still get today, and it still works fine. It's very small, and it works all right on here. Changing fonts is a little slow, or changing like the font size and stuff like that. But once it gets going, it works just fine. It keeps up. I don't want to save. And that's about it as far as this goes. There's a bunch of other stuff that can be messed around with, but it's, like any old Linux distribution, you can find a lot of this stuff still. A lot of these packages are still maintained today, like the GIMP. This is version 1.2. Currently, they're at version 2. Something, 2.8, I think. It doesn't really have that intro anymore. Well, that kind of settings thing anymore, as far as I can recall. I mean, I just haven't done it in a while because I just haven't had to clear out my GIMP configuration. But yeah, this kind of splash screen is pretty much the same dialog box now. It's different, logo on it. The dog is still, the GIMP icon. That hasn't changed. This can take a little bit to load, but once it loads, you'll see that the interface is more or less the same. Oh yeah, that clicking is the emulator kind of lagging out a little bit, and the audio just kind of becoming discontinuous. And yeah, it's the GIMP. Oh, I didn't grab the. There seems to be more dialog boxes back then. Like now they just have the two panel thing. Like I don't even think you can do this like this anymore. And of course they have the one window mode now. But yeah, here's the GIMP. You can select your brush and you make a new, you can make new brushes and all that stuff. It's a bit different now because you just select like the different brush, parameters and just, whatever. But yeah, it works. Actually works pretty all right in the simulator. And that's about it. Oh, I guess there's system sounds. Anyway, so let's just shut it down and that's it. The simulator doesn't really shut down in any way, so it just halts because it doesn't have it's not just going to quit or something like that. So that was my demonstration of installing and running Redhat 7.2, which is from 2001, and a emulator that reasonably emulates the speed and capabilities of the computer that I was running it on in the first place. So that's it.